Now recognize the gentlelady from Wyoming, Ms. Hageman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually want to take a step back and look at the forces behind these college campus riots, which have far overstepped the protections from the First Amendment and threaten Jewish students and faculty across the nation. From what I have seen, these riots are a form of anarchy that are being pursued by a violent group of anti-American and anti-Semitic groups. What strikes me about this pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas inspired unrest is both the speed in which it started after the October 7th attack and the sophistication of the coordinated acts of crime, including threatening our Jewish students, occupying and damaging college buildings, and more. First, we must start with the fact that on October 8th, one day after the Hamas terrorist attack, Palestine chapters on college universities such as Harvard issued statements and began holding rallies in support of Hamas and placing the blame for the violence entirely on Israel. Mr. Kestenbaum, you are a master's student at Harvard. Didn't you find it a little odd that groups were so prepared to immediately support the Hamas attacks?
I found it odd and I found it horrifying.
Well, and I did too, and I would say this preparation suggests outside influence inside these student organizations, and that such outside groups were possibly informed of the October 7th attack before it occurred. That this situation is being driven by outside forces is not just speculation. Of the 262 people arrested at Columbia and the City College of New York, nearly half had no affiliation with the schools. At George Washington University here in DC, only 6 of the 33 arrested individuals were affiliated with the school. The coordination is mind-blowing. I don't want to diminish what our Jewish students are going through right now, but I want to hopefully highlight something, Mr. Kestenbaum, you stated in your testimony, and to describe the further danger of this situation. Wouldn't you all agree that outside criminal and violent forces exploiting colleges for their causes are dangerous for each and every member of the school, the students and the faculty alike? Mr. Jacobi, would you agree with that?
100%.
What about you, Mr. Kestenbaum?
Absolutely.
Rabbi Goldfeder?
Absolutely.
And Mr. Auckland?
Yes.
Shai Davidai, an assistant professor at Columbia Business School, reported that one of the nationwide instigators of these campus movements, Students for Justice for Palestine, received guidance and financial support from American Muslims for Palestine, and he reports AMP's directors have links to groups which fundraise for Hamas. These groups even have, these anti-Semitic, anti-American groups even have direct ties to the Biden administration, to the White House. The National Security Council Coordinator for Intelligence and Defense Policy and the Deputy Assistant to the President, Mayor Bitar, is driving the administration's Hamas policy. In college, Mr. Bitar was an active participant in Students for Justice in Palestine at Georgetown University. Again, that relationship, that connection, absolutely horrifies me, and I think it demonstrates why we have seen such a weak response from the Biden administration. Rabbi Goldfeder, your testimony touches on this issue a bit in your second recommendation, and what you state is that we just simply need to enforce the laws on the books which provide for punishment when foreign students provide support for terrorism. Could you please elaborate on the source of the issue from which this recommendation comes from and what Congress can do through oversight to ensure that the DOJ is doing just that, which is enforcing the law?
Sure. Well, that particular recommendation comes from the Immigration and Nationality Act, but I'll take it a step further, which is that even groups that include domestic citizens that support terror, there are laws in place. You know, the ATA and JASTA are there to protect everyone else from groups that support terror. AMP was founded on the ashes of other groups that were shut down literally for supporting Hamas. AMP coordinates NSJP, and that's why we sued them in federal court. And so I think it's important to enforce those laws to make sure that the DOJ actually does hold them accountable.
Do you think that the DOJ is currently enforcing the law as it is written?
I do not.
Okay. I would ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record the article, "One Look at Biden's Top Advisor Explains His Support for Hamas." I want to thank all of you for being here. I'm sorry for what you're going through, but I also want to thank you for your bravery, for your willingness to step up and talk about this. It needs to be exposed. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. We're going to get through this. We're all going to get through this. I know it's tough, but your bravery demonstrates that there are good Americans out there that will always fight for the right thing. Thank you. I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady from Wyoming. Without objection, her consent request will be admitted in the record. I also have a letter from Advancing American Freedom to Attorney General Garland that without objection I'd like to introduce into the record involving these issues and some questions they asked from the Department of Education. And then in addition, I think somebody referenced earlier, I would like to introduce a Politico article dated May 5th titled "Pro-Palestinian Protesters Are Backed by a Surprising Source, Biden's Biggest Donors, Including Soros, Rockefeller, and Pritzker."